Super investors have just purchased these cheap StockStop 5 investments. Super investors are buying last chance. Use the data room and you'll find all those investors there. Carson has it here. Paul, they use Moneros for stocks where possible, e.g. on YTD Attack, https on iacon www.youtube.com, watch dbum bau u33kb buff dmexo, see how he uses the data room, connect it to my portfolio plus Moneros plus always highlight what is relevant. Super investors have just bought these stocks, and now you can see it too. Imagine you have hundreds of millions of dollars under management and you have to invest them. Can you feel the pressure? But in America, there's a law that allows us to look directly under the hands of these billionaires and find out exactly what stocks they bought, what they sold, and where the most money is really flowing today. In this video, I'll show you the top 5 stocks that have been most frequently bought in the last 3 months by the world's biggest investors, Buffett, Chris Hohn, Terry Smith, and Michael Burry, among others. And you know that there are 1,000 reasons to sell a stock, but only one reason to buy it, because you want to make money. At the end of the video, I'll also reveal which specific stock I want to buy myself, so be sure to watch until the end. Hi, my name is Andra, and welcome to another investment video. Let's start with the biggest name, Warren Buffett. Video. Find something cool about him, short up to 10 seconds, always something iconic. Buffett now runs a huge colossus, Berkshire Hathaway, whose value has already exceeded $1 trillion. Since the beginning of the year, BRK shares have risen by about 7 to 8%. Part of the value is in subsidiaries that Berkshire owns entirely, railways, insurance companies, energy. But a quarter of the portfolio is in publicly traded stocks, and that's where interesting changes are taking place right now. Let's start with Apple. It is still Berkshire's largest position, but Buffett is gradually trimming it. Not because Apple has ceased to be a quality business. On the contrary, it has been one of his best investments. But when a single position grows to hundreds of billions of dollars, growth slows and new obstacles arise, it makes sense to realize some of the profits and redirect the capital elsewhere. And that elsewhere is now United Health Group, a giant American health insurance company. Buffett's team bought its shares, and the mere news that Berkshire had entered the company raised the price by 12% in a single day. That's the power of his name and reputation. Why United Health? They recently made a mistake. They offered cheaper insurance policies, gained millions of customers, but those customers began to use them more than expected. Profits fell, the outlook worsened, and the stock plummeted. Most investors panicked, but these are exactly the moments Buffett loves. A company with a huge market share is facing a short-term problem, but its long-term value remains. Buffett knows that time is on his side, the mistake will be corrected, profitability will return, and the stock will go up. And that's the lesson. Where others see a problem, Buffett sees an opportunity. He has decades of experience in the insurance industry, so it makes sense for him to go there. Even at 94, Buffett is still playing his classic game. He doesn't chase trends, he doesn't panic. He waits for the moment when a company with long-term value that is temporarily undervalued appears, and when the right moment comes, he strikes hard. And that's a lesson every investor can learn from his actions. And this, by the way, is exactly what we discuss in our community. How to think about when to reduce your position and when to take advantage of panic and buy. Because let's face it, you'll never know this from a chart. You need to know the context, the numbers, and the story. I do this regularly in my community where I show you step by step what I'm buying, what I'm selling, and why. There are already more than 6,000 active investors there who are making money on stocks. You can find the link in the video description. Another great investor is Bill Ackman from Pershing Square, who manages over $13 billion. And this is where it gets really interesting. Ackman got rid of Canadian Railways but massively increased his positions in Amazon and Google. And it wasn't just that. He announced this publicly on Twitter even before the official report. This means that he played completely openly and investors had the chance to jump in with him, and it turned out that he hit the bullseye. His purchase of Amazon is now up around 15%. Why Amazon? Ackman is betting that this company will continue to be one of the biggest winners of the next decade. Amazon is no longer just an e-shop. It is a cloud giant, a leader in logistics, and is working on artificial intelligence and robotics. And it is adding another powerful engine, food delivery. Walmart has long had an advantage here, but Amazon is now expanding its service to more than 2,000 cities. This means that an area where it had a weakness could become a huge opportunity. All of this makes Amazon one of the most popular purchases among super investors in the last quarter. Ackman was one of the first, but he is certainly not alone. Amazon appears in most large portfolios. If we look at the rest of his portfolio, we find Uber and Brookfield, for example. Both companies make up huge, almost 20% positions. These are businesses that generate strong free cash flow, and Ackman believes in them for the long term. Overall, his fund is up about 13% this year, which is a solid result. Ackman shows two things with this. He has the courage to make big bets on the future, and at the same time, he has a nose for quality, and that's what makes his moves so interesting to us, other investors. Now let's look at Dev Kantesaria of Valley Forge Capital, one of the investors I personally find very interesting. Dev started out a little over 10 years ago with about $300,000. Today, he manages over $4.5 billion. That in itself shows that he knows what he's doing. His philosophy is similar to mine: high-quality companies, a concentrated portfolio, a long-term horizon. But we don't agree on everything. For example, he sold Amazon, which I personally consider one of the best companies on the market. Conversely, he has concerns about Google, where I believe in the strength of the business. Let's look at the numbers. Dev went into this year with a huge bet on FICO, the company that does credit scores in the US. It made up more than 30% of his portfolio, but the stock fell by tens of percent from more than $2,000, and that's what dragged down his results this year. While the market went up, his fund is down about 3 to 4% this year, and it's important to realize that even super investors have periods when things don't work out for them. But what's noteworthy is that he didn't sell FISO. He's still holding on to it. And that's a signal. If he thought the company's fundamentals had deteriorated permanently, he would have gotten out long ago. But he believes that this is only a temporary problem: regulatory pressure, noise around competition. In all his activities over the last quarter, we find only one change. He slightly reduced his stake in Intuit, which was, on the contrary, his best growing position. Probably so that he would have liquidity for client withdrawals, or because the valuation had already grown too high. And this is a valuable lesson for us investors. Sometimes the greatest strength lies in doing nothing, holding on to quality companies despite downturns, if you know that their business has a future. Dev Kantesaria remains virtually fully invested, with less than 1% in cash, relying on time to work in his favor. So what can we take away from this? That even the best have bad years. But the difference between them and the average investor is that they don't panic. They don't sell quality companies when they are falling, and that is a discipline that pays to have in our own portfolio as well. Artificial intelligence now makes investing much easier for me. I'm gradually adding my insights about it, as well as 4 tips on currently interesting stocks, to my new WhatsApp group. The first stock is already up several percent since the day it was posted, so don't miss the second one. The whole group is free. You can join via the link below the video. Now let's take a look at Chris Hohn and his TCI fund. Hohn currently manages over $50 billion and is one of the most successful investors in the world. His strategy is simple. He selects only the highest quality companies with a huge competitive advantage. His portfolio includes, for example, Railways, Google, Moody's, Visa, Microsoft, and GE Aerospace, a company that is so technologically advanced that almost no one in the world can imitate it. And what's fascinating is that Hohn says his riskiest position is Google. If Google is the most risky for him, then it is clear that the portfolio is built on truly indestructible pillars. And now to his activity. He made minimal changes in the last quarter. He slightly reduced his stake in Railways and bought a little more Visa, Microsoft, and Moody's. Otherwise, nothing. The result? The portfolio is up 24% this year, beating both the S&P 500 and the Nasdaq. And the lesson for us? That sometimes strength does not lie in constantly doing something, but rather in the ability to hold on to the best companies for the long term, and that is exactly what Chris Hohn does. Now let's look at Michael Burry, whom you probably know from the movie The Big Short. He is an investor who never plays by the crowd, and his portfolio changes faster than anyone else's. Find something cool about him in under 10 seconds, something iconic, all WAs. This time, however, his steps surprisingly coincided with those of Warren Buffett. Burry bought United Health Group through call options, which now make up almost 18% of his portfolio. In other words, he went in very aggressively, and that's not all. He also added Lululemon, Meta, Estee Lauder, Chinese stocks such as JD.com and Alibaba, and even European technology leader ASML to his portfolio. We can see that he is not afraid to venture into completely different sectors, from healthcare to retail to cutting-edge technology. But what is important is that Burry never deals with sentiment. He doesn't care if a company is popular in the media or if the market is panicking. He just looks at the numbers, and if he sees value, he buys. That's why it's difficult to measure his results, because he's constantly rotating his portfolio. And the lesson for us? That sometimes it pays to be a contrarian, to look at companies that others have written off, and not to be afraid to go against market sentiment. And that's what Michael Burry has been doing for years. As for my purchase, I now have a plan to buy NU Holdings through put options, but it looks like I'll only get a premium of about $1,000 because my strike price is $12.50, and the share price probably didn't reach that level by this Friday, so I only got the premium. NU is a digital banking holding company in Brazil, Mexico, and Colombia. I definitely consider it a more volatile and risky component of the portfolio. It is not a stable profit machine, at least not now. However, I sometimes add a small percentage of these more speculative items to the portfolio. Once Palantir was one of them. Super investors can show you the way, but you need your own process. And that's exactly the process we're building step by step in my community. Join us where you'll find guides, my portfolio in real time, and access to thousands of other investors. You'll find the link below, and I look forward to seeing you inside. The link is in the description, and if you're interested in my portfolio on XTB, where I have my 10 million, check it out here.